So the pictures you see on screen, 25% of the cartel, and what a formidable foursome they were. So Mickey Duff, I suppose, was the heartbeat, was the energy. You had Jarvis Astaire, who was, I suppose, the big wig. He was in charge of Wembley. Mike Barrett, very gentlemanly, I'm told. And Terry Lawless. Mike Barrett had the Royal Albert Hall, and then you had Terry Lawless, who Jim Watt told me, he said he was really famous for, you know, basically Mickey Duff was an out-and-out businessman. And Terry looked after his fighters like a son. Many of you follow this channel will be aware of the Paul Sykes story. So Paul Sykes fought John L. Gardner. So when you watch the John L. Gardner fight against Sykes, that voice you hear when you can hear him say, "Now, John." So John L. Gardner told me, he said that was Terry Lawless. Basically, that was the sign to throw the right uppercut. And whenever John L. Gardner heard that, he knew to let go. So the astonishing thing is, Terry Lawless never actually boxed himself, which is astounding, really, considering all the list of, you know, the legends he trained, or I suppose manager's a correct term. You know, your Ralph Charles, of course, John L. Gardner, Bruno, Charlie Magri, John H. Stracey, Morris Hope, a young Calzaghe. Oh God, I could if I really sat and thought about it. Mark Kaler, Gary Mason, Neville Mead, Jimmy Batten. Did I say Jim McDonnell? Yeah. Do you know, I would have loved to have met him, Terry Lawless. Sadly died in 2009, gallbladder, I think it was. And he'd been out over Marbella for many, many years. Yeah, he was, I'm got my 37th interview with, a guy on Thursday, Henry Wharton's coach, actually. And there's been many references in this book I'm writing, which is obviously about Mickey Duff. And, you know, Terry was just an out-and-out gentleman. Mickey Duff said he was the greatest manager, trainer this country's ever seen. He was a psychologist. He was a psychiatrist. He really looked after his fighters, above and beyond. I remember Duke McKenzie saying to me, he said, I've heard them screaming at each other on the phone, and they were, you know, they were very passionate about the game, the sport, and probably on paper, I would probably say he is the, you know, I mean, he's certainly out with him and maybe Brendan Ingle for Britain's greatest trainer, if you like, of all time. Yeah, I mean, obviously Brendan kind of took them from day dot. But, I mean, do you know what, if I sat and thought about it, there's probably more fighters that I can't think of at the minute that, Terry Lawless was very instrumental in, you know, he's from West Ham. And, yeah, I would have loved to have met him. He was, as I said, he really looked after his fighters, and, quite often he kind of fell out with Mickey Duff because he wanted, you know, obviously Mickey was more business minded, if you like, where Terry really didn't want unnecessary dangers, particularly on the way up, which is really why Frank Brown never fought Dave Pearce. He was just that bit risky for him. I'm told that Terry Lawless didn't really get on with Mike Barrett. But these, you know, this was the cartel. These basically ruled British boxing for decades, and you know, it was all They were all in London, weren't they? You know, so Terry's gym was the Royal Oak in Cannon Town. I think, well, it's no longer there anymore now. I'm sure it's something like some flats or something. But, yeah, so that was the golden era of British boxing. And when I'm talking that, you know, the voices are Dickie Davies, your Harry Carpenters, your Reg Guttridges. Obviously before my time, you know, the 70s and even when I was born in 1990, but I didn't really start noticing boxing. I didn't really become aware of it probably till about 89, but I didn't really start studying it till probably my mid-90s, so it was kind of well before my time, if you like, but I would have loved to have met him. And let us know your comments below. Did you meet Terry Lawless? So I'm gonna do a video on the cartel. You know, they were just a supremely formidable, you know, the A-team in boxing, when they were involved with everything and very instrumental. And yeah, you know, I don't know, maybe one day I'll write a book on Terry Lawless. But yeah, what a fascinating character. And yeah, as I said, if I sat and thought about it, there's probably much. George Francis was another one as well. Sadly no longer here. Was, you know, kind of, they really brought Bruno on the way up. And I remember John Gardner saying to me that, so Gardner was finished by about early 80s, maybe 83 at the top of my head. He fought Noel Quares, but he said they kind of lost interest in him because, you know, boxing's a pretty unforgiving sport, isn't it? And, you know, as John L. Gardner was on the way out, that the young Franklin Roy Bruno on the way up. And, but yeah, let us know your thoughts. Terry Lawless, Canning Town, trainer at the Royal Oak, born in West Ham. And as I said, never actually boxed, which is astounding. You know, I know Enzo Calzaghe didn't, and he's obviously done really well. There must be other coaches out there. Do you know what? Denny Mancini was, he was another, you know, obviously from the famous Mancini family, but he actually himself didn't box. So he was known as a cutsman, if you like, and a trainer and a manager and all that, but never actually boxed himself. So it can be done, although it's very not quite often, you know, but there is, and sometimes people think sometimes the best boxers don't make the greatest coaches. And then, you know, you look at maybe the greatest coach of all time, which is, well, in my opinion, it's Manny Stewart, but some would say Freddie Roach. And Freddie Roach was, yes, he boxed, but you know, he never hit any heights. You know, Anthony Farnell is one on the up at the minute. And so he actually, I mean, anyone who watches Anthony Farnell, his style was very much kind of come forward, not really stylish or, you know, kind of flamboyant, where he you know, the way he was kind of teaching Frankie Gavin. And so you don't have to, just because you can't do it as a boxer doesn't mean you haven't got visions that you can see. And, you know, it's obviously helps to be very creative and passionate. And yeah, Terry Lawless, let us know your thoughts. Sadly no longer here, passed about 15 years ago, but what a legend, what a man. I would have absolutely loved to have met him. But let us know your thoughts below.